Hello and welcome back. It's Grillenheimer. Now earlier in the week, Glenn Beck, and I do like him. I listen to him pretty regularly. I didn't when Rush was alive, but now I do, and he seems like a really humble and easygoing guy. And he does try to make a lot of predictions, and he was, I can't remember what he was talking about. I think it was about the aurora borealis and what that means for us and how that could affect our power grid. And I'm thinking, oh, really? And the further south we see it, and I remember seeing it in the 90s, and with a cousin of mine. We were out catfishing at night, and we're like, what in the world? We could see it over the tree line, and we thought there was a fire somewhere. We didn't smell a fire. We didn't know what, but it was the aurora borealis, and it was really cool. It was like in the mid-90s. But fast forward to just a little over 2 weeks ago now, and it happened again. You only could really, you had my part of Alabama, I couldn't see it visually, but if I took like a night picture, I think I got a picture of it. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe I didn't. It may just be night vision camera. I don't know. But and he was saying how the telegraph lines back in like 1864 or whenever got fried because of the solar flares and aurora borealis. Am I pronouncing that right? Showing up and coming down that far south during back then. And I'm thinking, and then he was kind of, I won't say fear mongering, that's the wrong term here. He may have been over exaggerating the possibility of it damaging our power grid. There is that possibility. He's saying if it had gotten any worse, it could have been worse than an EMP. That I don't know. I'm not that savvy on all this science and electrical stuff. But I will say this. And he also mentioned, this is where I'm going with this, that if something like this was to ever happen, then, they're in Texas. And he's like, it would take them forever to try to get it all back up again because they just don't have transformers, or that meets the guy. No, in equipment just laying around, blah, blah, blah. Dude, okay, they may not have enough to completely replace the whole grid, but your power companies have backup stuff. They have stuff available because storms, extreme heat, extreme freezing, temperatures affects everything. It affects your meters, it affects the lines, maybe not so much the underground lines. If we do have really bad solar flares, well then it's going to be best to have the lines underground, and a lot of people, a lot of areas are going that direction, so they're not overhead. But he was making it out like the power companies wouldn't be able to handle it. They just couldn't. And well, maybe not initially, and maybe Texas's power companies, because I'm sure there's more than one. Sorry, peanut butter M&Ms. That they probably have some stuff, some equipment to where they could start to replace things. But then there's some other factors. He just, he put on his little blinders, and he wasn't thinking like our utilities think. Because number one, if something major happens in, I don't know, New England, Florida, wherever, our power companies here in the state I live in, they go and help other power companies. When things happen like, Hurricane Katrina, power companies from other states went down to go help them out. They help out each other all the time. And here we have, I don't know, I think Alabama Power covers most of the state, but there's we still have TVA, like a power, and lots of other little places, and it's all based on territory, from what I understand. And so we have lots of different little companies all over the state, really. But if something really bad did happen, number one, they already have some stuff. Oh, man, that's cool. They already have some stuff on standby to be able to replace things like poles and transformers, etc., etc. They do have some of that equipment. No, it's not going to be able to completely rebuild the grid. No. But it would be a start, and yeah, they would still have to get material. And that was one of his main concerns, was the material to be able to make these things. And yet that can be an issue, and we're seeing it right now in Texas, because of the major storm that just hit, last night? Today is Saturday. I'm in a Walmart parking lot. It was either like last night or Friday that parts of Texas got hit real big by that storm, and I'm kind of getting rained on here right now. It's not that bad. It kind of blew over pretty quickly. And a lot of areas are without power. And of course the news was playing the people going, my gosh, we got people that need this, and we need to know something. At the same, after that, before they started playing people pull quotes from news sources from Texas, the local news actually said, the Texas Power Companies say that they hope to get most of the power all back on by Wednesday. That's not terrible. It's not great. It's a few days. But it is humid. I hear their temps are in the 90s. We're human. We can change. We can adjust. The elderly, maybe not so much, but at the same time, my grandparents, especially my grandfather, he grew up in Alabama almost during the Dust Bowl era. Of course, Alabama didn't get hit by the Dust Bowl as much as the western side of the country, I will admit, but he liked it warm. He was used to the heat. And we would go over and visit my grandparents, and my grandmother would be like, turn down that air conditioner. It's just too hot in this house. And we'd go over to his AC and bump it down maybe 5-10 degrees. He had it on 80 in his home because he liked being warm. And I've mentioned this lake house that I've mentioned throughout my channel here, where I got idea for all the transformer boats for the dead TCG, etc., that I've done here. A lot of those characters and whatnot. This lake house that we had was built around 72, 74, something like that, and we had it up through till about 84, 94, 30 years. We had about almost exactly 30 years. And the place had no air. It did have heat, which we rarely used, and it had a fireplace and an attic fan. That was it. We wanted to cool down. We turned on fans. We opened the windows. We opened the sliding doors. We went outside. We dipped in the water, etc. Of course, we were in a slough. We were not right on the lake. But, a lot of people in Texas, I understand they don't have that luxury exactly to be able to just go outside and dump in a pool or, play with your kids in the water. Spray each other with water guns or something, cool down the best you can, etc., etc. But, and drink your water. And even drinking, lukewarm water isn't going to hurt you. I went camping with my kid in Trail Life. It's been 6 years ago. And when we would go camping, we'd have water bottles. That water was not cold. It was not cold. It's still water. Drink it. you're still hydrating yourself. So just things to do. I mean, no power, no Wi-Fi. Pull out a deck of cards. Get your mind off your heat. Get your mind off your troubles. Open the windows. Go outside. Walk around a little bit. If you need to go to a hotel, you may have to pick up and do something, or go to a relative's house that does have power or whatever. I'm not belittling their situation whatsoever, because the blizzard of 93 in Alabama, a lot of people were without power for a week. So if they can get a majority of everyone's people's power back on by Wednesday, from Friday to Wednesday, that's not bad. It could be worse. Always weigh your options, your gratefulness. Deal with things the best you can. And this is why we need to be less reliable on the federal government or even your state government. We need to be a little more self-sufficient. That's what made Americans Americans originally. And they just drove the wrong way down a one-way. That's what used to make Americans Americans, and now we're made fun of around the world because how we're overweight, we're overeating, and doing this and not doing that, not letting everything come to us. You want your groceries? Go out and get them. If you have the ability, if your legs work, if your feet work, go out and get your own groceries. 2020 is over, and yet a lot of this stuff is still kind of operating to where you can, order it, drive up, and they'll bring it to your car or whatever. Get out and walk. I have hip problems. I have neuropathy in my feet. I have where is it? I've got one of these things. I've got a handicap placard if I so chose to use it, and sometimes I will, but not very often. I will, especially we have kind of newer cars now, I will park maybe not as far away as possible, but I will park a good ways from the door and make myself walk. And then when I get in there, I'm walking all over the place inside the store as well. I do not have a watch thing. This is just a cheap digital watch. I have it all on my phone. And our work right now, we're having like a walk, maybe not a walk-a-thon, but keeping up with our steps kind of thing. So I'm kind of doing that, and I'm sort of noticing, when I work from home, I'm not even getting barely 3,000 steps in a day. That's not good. When I go work at my desk at the company, I can get anywhere from almost 5,000 steps in. Of course, since it's my phone, it may not be very accurate. I don't have it on me all the time. But we need to be walking more. I'm trying to grow some vegetables as best as I can, which is not that great. Last year was terrible. I only grew a whole 2 or 3 peppers, and that was it. The time 2 years before that, in around 2020, 2021, I grew a few things. Of course, my grandparents, they had 3 different pecan trees, and they had 3 different gardening areas in their backyard, and they kept up with it while my grandfather worked at, I'm trying not to dox myself here, he worked at U.S. Steel, and she worked at some big places, so they weren't really hurting for money. So they did well. So they did well for themselves, but from coming home from a full-time job, and they had kids. They had bird dogs for a while when my mom used to live with them, and I don't know when they had the dogs died, or I don't know. I never saw a bird dog. But they would always keep up. They grew so much stuff, cabbage, They had a row of green beans. Did they have corn? I think they had corn. Oh my gosh, I'm trying to remember. Beans, corn, cabbage, maybe lettuce. I don't see how they did it. I can't get a couple of things in some pots and buckets to work for me, and I'm trying my darndest to keep those up myself. So it takes work. It takes work. Being self-sufficient takes work. Doing your own oil and figuring out how to do your own oil for your individual cars takes a little work. Changing your own, that's what I came here for. Air filters takes a little know-how, and it's not hard. You can do it yourself. You know how much this would have been if I had done this where I had the oil changed for this car? About 70 piece. It was going to be like $160 something if I wanted them to change the filters, and I'm like, nah, no thank you. But the guy was really nice, and I asked him, it's like, well, how did you get to the cabin filter? And he showed me. I'm like, thank you, I can do this myself. And he's like, yeah, it's what you said, that's fine. And he was really helpful to tell me where it is and how to do it, and it's not hard at all. So things to do, things you can do yourself. And this is going to sound really stupid and cliche, but baby steps. It just takes baby steps. But we are Americans. We need to learn to do some things for ourselves. And thinking for yourself. Don't go join the mob and tear something down, burn something down, or break glass or whatnot. Think for yourself. You can do something else with that energy. You can do something else than ruin somebody else's day for an advocacy group, whether you're getting paid for it or not. That's just my 2 cents on that. But yeah, Glenn Beck is not always right. And I was listening to Stu. I like Stu a lot. He reminds me of an old friend of mine from high school. And he once aired a video on his channel, YouTube channel, I think. And it was bad. It was false news. He was spreading false news. And I'm thinking, dude, this has been debunked. Why are you saying this is a real thing? And I think it was Kamala or somebody like that at a football game or some game somewhere, and boos. It made it like she was being booed while somebody was at the. I thought it was the vice president, and it ended up being that that audio was overlaid on top of the actual audio. It was fake. It was fake news. And I'm just like, man, Stu, you're better than this. And I had already heard from a lot of other commentators talking about it. And somebody's like, well, this is fake news. Here's the original. So why is this one being spread? And they played both of them, and I'd already heard that first before I heard Stu talk about it. And he played the wrong clip. He played the fake clip, and I was not happy with that. But and then he went on. So I don't know if he ever corrected himself, apologized, or what. I don't know, because I don't really listen to him as much as I like Glenn Beck's show. And now he's delving into a little history and artifacts and things that he's gotten. And the whole thing with even if you're not a Glenn Beck fan, it's only 30 minutes long, and it went by really quickly about him. This auction for Sputnik. Interesting stuff. Even if you don't like Glenn Beck, you need to hear that. I better go. I've been taking too long talking about this. We'll see you next time. So much more, but I just kind of wanted to disprove Glenn Beck a little bit, because power companies have to look after themselves. They look after other power companies. They have to be ready for storms and major damage, etc. They have some things in the wing available to be able to make repairs when damage does happen. If it is something as drastic as like a solar flare or EMP, yeah, it could affect all of us. But let me tell you one, like I said before, all the different power companies come together and help all the other states out in times of trouble, in times of great duress, in times of an emergency. They come together to make sure their customers are taken care of. And that's all I got to say about that.